Alright, how's it going, everyone? My name is Silver Knight Requiem, and today we are going to be looking at the spoilers that were released for End of Dragons, the upcoming um, expansion for Guild Wars 2, a game that I've been playing since launch, and I've been invested in this series since pretty much the beginning. I've been playing since um, Prophecies first came out, really. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm a little late to the ball on this. Like I'm a little about a week late. Uh, but here we go. All right. Considering the current lack of hype for End of Dragons, and ANET is once again intent on not wanting to generate any hype, I felt it's time someone stepped forward, and that someone might as well be me. Oh, I should preface. I did a quick skim of this, just looking at the elite specializations and such, because I just wanted to get like a kind of initial glimpse, so that I'd have more time to think about it and talk about it for this video. Um, I've had the fortune to be one of the few people that had an invitation to a closed early test of some parts of the upcoming End of Dragons expansion. No, we were not able to see or test everything. Yes, it is looking good, albeit some things are buggy. No, I don't care if you don't believe me. All I have to do is wait until the end of July to get proven right. Okay? So I step forward then. This game needs hype. Leaks generate hype, and it hates leaks. And it also fails to generate hype. If anything, I hope this is doing the game a favor so that we see a bigger interest in the game and in End of Dragons. So there is a bigger chance of it getting the attention it deserves. This is kind of a true thing. I definitely would agree with this statement and the sentiment. ANET, even though they put out a very good product, they have a tendency to not sufficiently. They don't sufficiently generate hype like they need to. Even though the game is really good, the game is really good itself. They just need more oomph in the beginning. Okay. What content was available for testing? We had access to some of the first story arc and areas, a few isolated parts, later maps, some early masteries, and we were able to playtest the upcoming specializations and one of two new raid wings. Hey, finally! There was a limited amount of time, so it was hard to test everything. So I'm sorry if my info is at times less detailed. It means I was unable to try it out for myself and have to go with the impressions of others. Coffee breaks on a safe distance still allow for a surprising amount of interaction. Yeah, as someone who used to game test, I can definitely say that like even though it's written to the NDA, do not talk about what you're testing with other people. It happens. It happens. Story. Naturally, we haven't got a single clue about the entire storyline. Only the beginning was available to try. ANET also did not want to answer a lot of questions about it, and if they did, the answers were very evasive. However, they seem to think that the story for End of Dragons is the best they've written so far. I sure as hell hope so. If their secrecy is anything to go by, yeah, I really hope that it's really good because they cannot afford to fuck up Cantha. They can't afford to do it after Iceberg Saga. Um, Still, from what was available, it started out pretty standard. We arrive in Cantha by airship, okay, only to be shot out of the sky by the defensive batteries at Xingje Bastion. Oh, Xingje Island! Oh my god, I love it. Okay. Interestingly enough, it is just the commander and her buddies. The new commander mascot is a lady. Devs just referred to her as May. Okay, it's pretty standard going with the whole thing of having the commander be a representative of the region that we're going to. They did the same thing with Path of Fire with making the commander an Elonian. Here I was. Interesting. Here we go. Still, it did feel a bit like they rehashed the Heart of Thorns opening. Yeah, I can see that. The next few story instances take place on the fortress island of Xingzhe, with the bastion essentially towering over one half of the island. It's big, and a big mountain range over the other. The central mountain range. You mostly try to understand why you got shot out of the sky. What the current situation is, there's a lot of unrest, and apparently Luxons and Kurziks feel confident enough to try and secede from the Empire again. Okay. Trying to find your friends. Marjorie is missing after crashing. You get a cutscene of her being dragged away by an unknown faction with some sort of waves-like dragon symbol on their uniforms and making new allies. That's interesting, because for those of you who don't know, Marjorie, even though her last name is Delacroix, she has been shown to have, like, Canthan-esque heritage. And the fact of waves like dragon symbol on their uniforms, hello, where's the deep sea dragon? Has it been here all this time? Is it somehow, like, in control of Cantha now? To be honest, it was more of a tutorial than an actual story, mostly serving to eventually get us to the Luxon Enclave at Haiju Lagoon. We learn that the Emperor has displaced many Luxon and Kurzik people from their homes to forcibly integrate them into the Empire. Makes sense. Where we learn how to operate and sail a ship in order to eventually be able to escape to the mainland from Setung Harbor. Yes, sailing was the first mastery we unlocked. Odd for them to go with another vehicle type mastery after we had the mounts from Path of Fire. We were only able to use the first few tiers, sail faster against the wind and sudden turn. Is this Wind Waker now? But it was pretty big mastery tree. It was something like 8 or 9 tiers just for sailing. Mastery points weren't all placed yet, so ANET just had it unlocked for us. Apparently there will be different ship models with different stats and abilities, with different skins available from the gem store. Makes sense. You can upgrade your ship through crafting, customizing its stats and abilities even further. Okay. To be honest, it was a lot more interesting than I imagined. And it was pretty fun navigating my little ship through the lagoon and down dangerous streams or past whirlpools with treasure. Okay. I'm wondering how they're going to do that with the, like, in the engine, but I mean, if they can pull it off. Damn. The movement, however, felt very slow. Mainly because we were unable to use mounts. Really. I mean, I know that there are a lot of people who are like, oh, we shouldn't be using mounts during Heart of Thorns content because it ruins the pacing that was initially set for that content, which is a bit of a valid statement, but yeah, I'm wondering how they're going to situate that. Apparently the use of mounts unlocks, okay, after playing through the main story. But I really hope ANET reverts this decision. After being used to mounts since POF, it feels like a step back, even while I get why they did it. Especially with bigger sailing ships, being able to transport multiple people, and there being a lot of water. ANET made sure that we knew this was not the only mastery line, but I haven't seen any others, and nobody else of the people I talked to did either. Okay, so one of the big things that I have issues with is how, given that the fact that the game is made on an older engine, it can't. There are issues with characters being on mobile platforms of any kind. So whether that be the airships that the airship that we flew in on when going to Elona, if you jump off that airship and try to glide, you will still go down with the airship because I'm pretty sure they're not moving the actual airship, they're just moving the world with it. Now that works in a um, instance where you can do something like that, but in the situation of multiplayer moving terrain, I I wonder how they're going to do that. I mean, we have the sniper floating things over in Grothmar, so I hope that it's something similar to that. But again, that could have just been like, oh, your character model is now attached to this thing. So I don't know. Okay, where was I? Right here. Haven't seen much water dragon things, but I did see some weird things called the pelagic, whatever that might be. But not all of them were hostile. Some were neutral, weirdly enough. There was, however, one piece of artwork that showed a massive kraken like creature fighting what seemed like jets of water with claws. I'm not sure if it was related to the story or just artwork. Other fun fact, devs said the Jade statue of Shiro will be in game, and that the Revenant will have some special dialogue and an achievement if they visit it while channeling Shiro. Cool. I'm down for that. My secondary main is a Revenant, so yeah. Um, Maps. From what I've seen, there's Xingjie Island, Kaining Metropolis, Pongmei Wilderness, Boreas Shore, Sunken Archipelago, Vastberg Frontier, and another Kurzik map that I have forgotten the name of. Honestly, we only got to see Xingjie Island and a part of Sunken Archipelago where they situated a raid instance. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's seven maps. 7. Finally. Okay, that is something that I absolutely wanted because Path of Fire did better than Heart of Thorns, but Heart of Thorns we only realistically got 3 maps because I don't consider Dragon's Den a map. I consider it just to be a meta. So having an actual 7 maps, I am elated. Okay. Raids. Ender Dragons will ship with at least one raid, with a second one being worked on that is supposedly going to be accessible from a place called Zuhelzer Ruins. House Zuhelzer! Yo! Okay. Even though I'm a Luxon, not a Kurzik, I still gotta respect. We were only able to try the first raid wing. It was in a place called Cavalon Diggings! Yes! 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 But it kicked our asses pretty hard. Sorry, we aren't seasoned raiders. It had 5 bosses in total and 2 events. One event was that your party gets stalked by some weird demon-like beings that pop out of stealth. Oni! Heavily damage people and disappear again. Apparently, there is a tell for this attack, but we never found out what it was, and simply got OHKO'd whenever it popped out of hiding. Yeah. Eventually, a dev felt pity and just teleported us past that particular event. First of all, some sort of mad cultist called the Reaver. It rotated between resisting physical damage and condition damage, and constantly summoned small raiding parties of sorts. Sorry to say, but I never got past it, if only because nobody understood how its aggro worked. It switched so many times, it was hard to keep track of, never got past 90%. I'd heard from others there was also something called a Leviathan and something called a Swarm, but ANET ported us past it to show us the last boss. Oh, the last boss is called Kanoxai of the Deep. Yes, Kanoxai is back. Hell yeah! Those are 2 people I want. Those are 2 beings I definitely wanted to see with this. Was Kanoxai and Kunavang. So the fact that we're having both, I am super happy. It is a massive horned demon with some weird watery corruption around him. Oh crap! Has Kanoxai been turned to a water dragon minion? This boss also constantly popped ads that converted boons on the party into healing for the boss. And as the fight progressed, there were all sorts of environmental effects. Felt a bit like how fractal instabilities worked. Okay, they got placed on the party, like losing health, stability not working anymore. When you dodge, you deplete the endurance bar of people near you, etc. If you did not break the boss's break bar, that appeared every 10-15% of the time. We didn't, despite throwing everyone throwing every CC we had on it. I'm still not sure if it was bugged or if the break bar was simply that big. It would not simply add one new environmental effect, but it added all possible effects at once. Oof. There were like 8 or 9 different effects, and every previous boss event area had one of these effects to make your squad familiar with them. Okay, so they're kind of doing something kind of similar with what they did for the new Fractal, the one that takes place in Cantha, where you get introduced to these mechanics before you fight the final boss that makes use of these same mechanics. Which at this point was pretty much GG. As I said, we never got past that first break bar, but it did seem like a very cool boss fight. One disappointment, it did not seem like there were any challenge motes. I mean, that's kind of to be expected. Challenge motes are probably something they're going to work on a little closer to the release. Fractals, I haven't seen any hints of new fractals, so I cannot tell you a thing other than it is probably on the table. Yep. Specializations. Okay. Simply put, I thought most pretty good, and some of them are possibly the best specs ANET has created. Elite specs being underwhelming was a big fear of mine, but after playtesting some things and talking to others, that fear is pretty much gone. I cannot wait to play them on release. The intended release date is closer than most people expect. Considering how a part of the storyline had to do with unrest in the Empire and the Kurziks and Luxons trying to secede, my bad. The elite specs are themed around these factions, with 3 being Imperial, 3 Luxon, and 3 Kurzik, from what I've played, seen, heard. A lot of support and control specs this time makes sense, with control often being in the form of what they called Wave. It's a new type of control effect that cannot be dodged or evaded through, but requires you to jump at the right time to avoid it. Okay, so we get access to the whoosh mechanic that like Drakkar has. I'm down for that. Warrior, Enforcer, Imperial inspired. It got a 2-handed staff. Oh, and focused on healing and control. Okay, so this is to replace Banner Slave. Got a third weapon set, and weapon swapping got a 3-second cooldown overall, 2-second with fast hands. It had 4 bars of adrenaline, and every burst skill only used a single bar, allowing you to quickly cycle between different weapons and bursts. Huh. Certain actions change your bursts between supportive and control, but I never really understood how it worked. I mainly used the trait that allowed you to use all adrenaline like a normal warrior if you spent 4 bars for additional effects. It looked cool, but overly complicated to me. Okay, so that to me looks like they're trying to give warrior kind of a, hey, if you want to do really good support stuff for raids, here is a bit more of a rotation, but you have more options available to you, which was kind of needed. Warrior started feeling a little one note, with everyone being just, you are a banner slave berserker, and that is what you are. So it's definitely something that I'm excited to see. Okay, Guardian. Redemptor. Apparently it's a Kurzik-inspired spec. It focused on crowd control and boon removal using offhand sword. It also got a unique effect that changed Aegis to something known as Reversal of Damage, which returned 100% of the damage from the next hit you took instead of blocking. Okay. It got something called Vows as utility skills, and the virtues appeared to become ground targetable effects that made me think of Scourge Pillars. Okay. They disabled this spec pretty early because the reversal of damage effect was bugged, causing people to one-shot the boss from the Xingje meta with it. Oh, God. Revenant. Spec is very weird. Okay. It was a Naga legend, I guess Luxon inspired, but I never heard of it and was unable to find anything on the wiki afterwards either. The legend showed up as Legendary Raider. It used dual daggers. But I'm not sure. Nobody really wanted to try it out. By the time I got to it, we only had 10 minutes left, so it was mostly some quick running around. It was, however, a power DPS-based legend that got access to so much stealth that I was surprised it wasn't a thief spec. Numbers seemed good, but the gameplay felt a bit off still. Plenty of evading and float, if I remember it right. Okay, so I'm upset for a couple reasons. One, well, I'm okay with the fact that it is a power DPS style thing. And giving Revenants Invis is, I think, a good idea right now, considering that there are plenty of other specs that have Invis, or even plenty of other classes that have Invis abilities, but none of the heavy armor ones. None of them have Invis. So, my issue is the fact that I made Dusk. I made Dusk with under the assumption that I'd be able to get to use it for my Revenant, because my Revenant is themed around that whole kind of like black and red kind of look. So unfortunately, the fact that I won't get to use that does make me a little sad, but I'm willing to give it a try. Now, the fact that it can do float, interesting. Ranger. Warden. A Kurzik inspired spec with a hammer? Okay, before I go any further, I want to make note of the fact that back when I think this was for Heart of Thorns, not Path of Fire, but it may have been for Path of Fire. Back before it was before Path of Fire. Back before Path of Fire released, I thought that we were going to get a Ranger spec called Warden that had a hammer and used stances. Like I made a post on Reddit about it as like a hey, here's my idea for a Ranger Elite spec. And people shot it down. They thought like, oh, this is stupid. So, whatevs. Kurzik inspired spec with a hammer that focused on power damage and control, while coming with a lot of personal barrier and stability. Good. That's needed. Because we have the healer, we have the Condi damage, because, let's be real, oh god, what's it called? There's Druid, and then there's Soul Beast. Soul Beast. Yeah, that. Okay. Soul Beast is definitely a Condi damage focus thing, or it very much so can be. So having something that is very, very power damage focused is good. I love this spec. It played like a non-shitty scrapper with functional pets and more hammer time. I just loved it. It felt like a love letter to the Guild Wars 1 Bunny Thumper build. Okay, yeah. And now you actually had 3 active pets instead of just 1. Okay. It was focused around making attack combinations with your pet. and stuff like applying successful crowd control, weapon swapping, or dodging gave access to different types to different types of combo attacks. Each pet was balanced so that it did only 75% of the from the damage of a core ranger pet. Okay, but with three pets out, that still meant a 225 damage pet force. Okay, they actually had to rework both the pet UI and its AI for the spec to work. Yeah, but it was 100% worth it. I especially loved using Hammer 5 to create a knockback inducing shockwave that gave myself stability and barrier. And comboing that with the elite skill, it was an ammo skill that was a thrown smoke field. It would then flip over in a skill where a siege turtle shot a massive cannonball at the target for heavy damage and even more knockdown. It was insane. Easily the most fun I had out of all the specs. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic. My head's getting a little warm from that. Sorry. Um, yeah, I think that's fantastic. It seems a little anime to me to have a thrown smoke field that then Siege Turtle shoots a massive cannonball at it. Like, just trying to think about that logistically is a bit of a stretch, but okay. Engineer, Constructor. I didn't play this one, so I can only tell you about what I heard from others during the smoke coffee breaks. It was a condition damage based spec with offhand mace. Apparently lots of confusion. And it got a life force like mechanic that allowed it to build minion like artificial things that were called constructs. Okay. Apparently these constructs and the constructor had a lot of synergy with each other, differing from giving it orders with something like that looked like the Warden's pet interface. Okay. To switching places with one of the constructs or combining them into new constructs altogether. I have some reservations concerning how a minion spec could be fun, but the people I talked to seemed very enthusiastic about it, with one girl saying it would be her main spec when UD comes out. Okay, so if you can do like location swap with one of them, that's great potential mobility. And if you can order them to like go into different spots with like ground target, so like saying, hey, you go over there and then take my spot, and I'll take yours, and that could be cool. That could be really cool, and I think that would do really really good for replace as a functional replacement for turrets, which at this point are only used for AFK farming. It's just not as useful otherwise. Thief. Okay. Here is my main class. I main a thief. It's my first character. Let's go. Bone Mender. Imperial inspired. Came with an offhand mace. Huh. It was a healing spec that was able to heal allies by attacking them. Is this what they took away Boon Thief for? I guess so. It had a trait that made it so conditions on your weapons would provide boons if the attack hit an ally. It was actually very fun. Oh. Is this a melee condition damage spec? Because one thing to keep in mind is that if something is going for like, hey, power damage, or hey, support, or anything like that, there will often be other pathways within said specialization, so that you could be like, I don't really need to do a whole lot of support stuff. I just want more damage. And you'll usually be able to do that. So this could potentially be a condition damage, which is good because I run Condi Thief. Okay. I didn't really understand the new steal mechanic. It seemed to also have a dual purpose where it could either take conditions from allies and put them to foes, or take boons to allies from foes. Okay, so this is Boon Rip. It's Boon Rip and Condi Rip. Okay. I do remember getting Alacrity. Good. Good. We needed that. We needed Alacrity really badly. We can make use of the new Gaki gear sets. That's gear stats, which was healing power, precision, ferocity. Weird. Okay. I mean, yeah, that could work. Okay. So what I'm thinking about this is, what is the condition damage most, what is the condition most frequently associated with mace? Torment. As we know, Torment got this huge buff, absolutely massive buff, from the June balance patch, where people will take more damage in PvE if they stand still through Torment. So if we get Torment from that mace, and especially if it's AoE, because call me an issue, but I kind of want to do more than just single target damage with my Thief. I want to be able to do some kind of like AoE damage with my Thief, especially Condi AoE. That would be amazing. If I could do something like what the if Thieves could do something kind of like what the Revenant can do currently with Mace Axe, that would be spectacular. Especially considering, given that it's Thief and we have dual skills, an offhand Mace is going to affect our 3, 4, and 5 skills. So that could bring out a lot of potential for running like Dagger Mace, or hell, even Pistol Mace, where we could do a lot of really, really good condition damage that is more than just single target. Elementalist. Celestial Envoy. Imperial inspired with a longbow and a mechanic called Celestial Storm. Okay. Is this Druid? Every attack you made added a charge to your Celestial Affinity to a maximum of 15 base charges. At any point, you could press the F5 skill for some sort of shadowy clones to appear that would shoot nearby targets with the amount of shots tied to your charges. Okay. Interesting. And the effects based on the attunement the charge came from. So if I used 8 fire attacks and 3 earth, I would get 8 fire shots and 3 earth ones. Huh. There were ways to change what these charges did, but I didn't get around to testing that, but it was able to provide a lot of control and offensive boons. Yeah. Like, especially if you're running like earth and water a lot, you could use that to like just emergency heal, I imagine, really, really well, or provide a lot of stability. Or you could just campfire, use 15 fire attacks, and then pop that and just put out crap tons of burn. Which, I mean, I'm okay with. That seems like a potentially really, really fun playstyle for Ellie. Necromancer. Afflictor. Lux-inspired Condi damage spec with a main hand sword. Now, every single class has sword. Every single class has access to sword. Bolt is going to shoot up in price. I can already tell. Um, it seemed to borrow from how early Revenant Malix felt during Heart of Thorns. Oh, where it juggles conditions from others to itself and spreading them around. Huh. Okay. Cause I remember doing early Revenant Malix, and it felt a little clunky unless it was being used in group settings. Um, especially like if you're just doing one-on-one fighting against an enemy, it felt ineffective. But hopefully they have learned from that, and um, we'll be able to make appropriate adjustments. They got the old resistance back. What? Why? Baked in a new effect called Tainted Flesh. The spec also naturally spread conditions on foes to foes near them on death. Is that built-in epi I see? Oh no. Or when above certain thresholds and had an elite skill that transferred conditions from nearby foes to a single oh god. What? It was fun but needed a lot of balance. People were hitting 80k DPS within some of the big meta events. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Say a boss spawns a lot of ads, just boom, bleed and poison and torment on all these things, but it's only like, oh, it's only like 2 stacks. But then suddenly, oh, that boss is getting all of those. Instantly 50 stacks of each and absurd numbers of DPS. So this looks like um this looks like it's going to be doing more Condi damage than Scourge. And I don't know how I feel about that. Because Scourge is already very, very powerful. Like, it is a very powerful spec. If they're going to kind of like roll back Scourge into being more of a support spec and make this Afflictor the main Condi damage spec, then sure, I can totally roll with that. I wonder what they're doing with the Shroud, though. Doesn't say. Mesmer Songstress. Kurzik inspired use of Warhorn. Borrows from Guild Wars 1 early Chronomancer designs, where F1 to F4 became big channeled songs. Interesting. And weapon swaps, dodges, utility skills add new effects to the channeled songs as they channel. Your own dodges or swaps did not break the channel, but enemy crowd control did like usual. You used shouts, but more in a way of lyrics, where every shout was an ammo-based short tale, and every ammo charge a sentence with certain effects. Okay. It was a very neat system. Clones Phantasm seemed to trigger at set intervals in the F songs. Okay. The fact that the Clones and Phantasms are triggering during the song at set times, I kind of like. It takes a little bit of the busy work out of playing Mesmer. However, I don't know how realistic the idea of Mesmer using these channel skills is, considering they got rid of the charge up of mantras, considering they got rid of the charge up of the spirit weapons for Guardian. It seems like they want to streamline and speed up combat, make it as little micromanaging as possible for things that aren't, Weaver. World vs. World didn't test this. There was talk of some sort of seashore map, with one half being an inland sea with islands, the other half being land with both Kurzik and Imperial parts, mostly rumor. I would be very interested in this, but it's a big but. given how ANET has felt in regards to underwater combat, I don't know how valid this is. Because ANET is a little scared of underwater combat. Especially, like, I mean, they removed Raid of the Capricorn. PvP didn't test. They did talk about how they wanted to find a middle ground between 5v5 and the big world versus world battles. Okay. Supposedly a 20v20 map with 4 teams of 5 on each side. Okay. Looking back to what they talked about and showed us, I don't think it will be ready when End of Dragons releases. Yeah, that's a pretty big change. PvP as a whole seemed to cause them troubles. No shit. There was some early design work done for a map with one party attacking a fort from the sea and another party defending it, but it got scrapped apparently. No idea why. I know exactly why, if this is true. It's because Stronghold was a goddamn mistake. Stronghold, as someone who liked playing Stronghold, it was never balanced. Stronghold was never, ever balanced. And that is why all the tournaments, all of everything, all ranked play, it's all conquest. It's all conquest. Because Stronghold just, it didn't work. It was their idea for some other kind of PvP, and people just didn't latch onto it. People are comfortable in conquest. They know what they're doing. They know what they want to do. It's just go, 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 go. Go to the point, kill enemies. Go to the point, kill enemies. Go to the point, kill enemies. And Stronghold requires thought. And when people are in the zone, when they've achieved flow, that's a little hard to do. So, counterintuitive stuff. That's all I can tell you guys. I cannot say who I am, where I'm from, what we tested, or where, only that it wasn't at ANET's main offices. I think I know where it was. If you don't believe me, that's fine. I wouldn't either if I saw a random Reddit post. All I can say is wait till the end of July, you will see. So, I'm pretty sure this was done at a location on, if you guys look at a map of Washington State, there's a place called Willows Road in Redmond. There are a couple of companies on that road that do game testing. That's where I did my game testing. So it was likely there where that happened. What do I think about all this? I'm excited for Cantha. I would love 7 maps of Cantha, and even more in like a living world style. Like, give me as much Cantha at a really high quality as you can. Because Champions was an absolute catastrophe. So if we can have actual good End of Dragons content and actual good Cantha content, it will reignite my hope for this franchise. If they fuck up Cantha, I might need to find a different game. Because you cannot screw up Cantha. That is something that we have all been begging for since launch. We've been saying, where's Cantha? When is Cantha? Come on, Cantha. Cantha Confirmed. Cantha Confirmed was the biggest meme in the Guild Wars 2 community for the longest time. And now they're releasing it, and they cannot afford to fuck it up. Especially after Champions, and how badly that failed. Because you cannot kill 2 of the Elder Dragons. One of them being the first Elder Dragon we were ever introduced to in the story. On top of Anvil Rock. A huge place in the game, in the original game. And have it be done as a repeatable instance. that it can be completed in less than 20 minutes with no build up. It was criminal what they did to Prime Mortis and Jormak. So I really hope they don't fuck up Kantha. And if they don't, then I will have some hope. Well, thank you very much for watching. Have a pleasant day.